do our responsibility, later, sooner, someone, somehow, sometime will take that responsibility. Hindi naman pwedeng walang gagawa nun, di ba? Kunyari, responsibilidad mo na pakainin yung anak mo, hindi mo ginawa. Somebody will have to do that responsibility for you. And they will suffer. Di ba? What are you trying to drill down, brother? What I'm trying to drill down is, we have our own responsibility. But if we don't do our responsibility, someone will be affected. Hindi pa pwedeng, wala namang ma-apektuhan. Responsibility ko to, hindi ko to ginawa. Hindi ma-apektuhan. No, you cannot think it that way. If you don't do your responsibility to your kids, eventually your kids will reap the failure of your responsibility. Dahil hindi mo ginawa yung responsibility mo sa anak mo, paglaki nila, makaka-apekto yun. You know, if you don't do your responsibility at work, somebody will do that. Diba? Kung hindi mo ginawa yung report, somebody will do the report. At siya yung nahihirapan. Diba? So, or sometimes siya yung makakakuha ng reward. So what I'm trying to say here is, each one of us has a responsibility and we have to work on our own. Ba't ba ako napunta sa responsibility? Yun yung cause, di ba, ng conflict. Pagka hindi natin tinake yung responsibility natin, it is spill out. Magkagalit naman sa, alam mo yun, dapat siya gumagawa ng report na to, ako gumagawa ng report. Alam mo siya, dapat na nagbabantay ng pasyente, ba't ako nagbabantay ng pasyente? Nagkakatuloy ng conflict. Diba? O ikaw dapat magbabantay ng mga bata, saan ka nagpunta? Diba? Nag-away tuloy. When we fail to do our responsibility, it can spill out to cause tawag nila doon, yung fight or quarrel among us. Diba? We have to take our responsibility. Responsibilidad mo, linisin mo yung bakuran mo, hindi mo nililinis, nagagalit sa yung kapitbahay mo, puro ka-weeds. Diba? Puro weeds yung, ganun eh. In a way, maaaring hindi kayo hindi nagagalit, personally, hindi kayo binubuntal, pero there's no peace. Fights and quarrel doesn't mean that you are, doing the physical thing. But sometimes, fight and quarrel can be subliminal. Diba? Hindi sila natutuwa sa'yo. Okay? There's no peace. In the absence of peace, there is quarrel. Ganun na lang yung mindset natin na, oo nga, hindi nga kayo nagkikibuan, hindi kayo nag-aaway, pero there is no peace. Maraming ganyan, even inside the church. Hindi naman sila nag-aaway, brother eh. Pero hindi naman sila nagkikibuan. That's not good. It's not healthy. Even in a relationship, diba? Even with your kids. Hindi naman galit sa akin yung anak ko, yung panganay ko, hindi naman galit. Pero hindi naman kinikibo. Diba? There's no peace. This is not the kind of relationship God wants us to have. God wants us to be mingling with each other, complementing each other, avoiding, that silent treatment. Maraming ganyan. Silent. Talagang silent. Isang taon na, silent pa rin. Diba? Isang taon ka na dito, hindi ka pa rin kumikibo. Diba? Hanggang ngayon, wala ka pa rin ginawa, kundi yung, I don't know. I'm not trying to refer to anybody, pero, sometimes we have to open up. Diba? Nung una, natahimik si Edward, nung pagdating na dito. Pero ngayon, siya na yung bumabangka. Diba? Yun yung mga, that is the kind of relationship we want inside the church. Diba? It helps, being transparent to one another. If there's a problem, let's say it. Same thing, di ba, sa mag-asawa, kaya nag-aaway yung mag-asawa, di ba, galit ka ba? Hindi ako galit. Galit ka. No, I'm not mad. Pero, galit ka eh. Sige na nga, galit ako. So, sometimes, like what I said, we have to remove that mindset. That we have to understand that sometimes, the fight within ourselves. Minsan nga, di ba, there is a mentality. There's a mentality na, bakit mainit ang ulo ba't mainit ang ulo niyan sa bahay? Kasi may problema sa opisina. Nadadala, natatransfer. Same thing, bakit mainit ang ulo niya? Kasi nag-away sila ng misis niya, kaya pagdating sa church, mainit din ang ulo. O, di ba? O nag-away sila ng anak niya, kaya pagdating sa opisina, mahintang ulo, hindi makakonsentrate. It affects. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. There is a cause. And one of the cause is the conflict within ourselves. Number two, the conflict, nagkakaroon ng conflict among our community. Either it's your wife, your spouse, your brethren, your friend, or whoever, nagkakaroon. And lastly, the root cause. The original root cause. Just like what my wife mentioned last night. The conflict between you and God. Yun naman talaga ang root cause nun. Bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng conflict among men? Because there is conflict within ourselves. Why do we have conflict within ourselves? Because there is conflict between us and what God wants. Diba? Ba't ka nagkakaroon ng conflict sa'yo? Kasi there is always covetousness. Diba? Gusto mo to, gusto mo yan. O ayaw niya ito, ayaw mo yan. Diba? Nagtatalo sa loob mo yan eh. Pero the truth of the matter is, that is just an effect of your conflict to the original conflict with God. Because sabi ng Lord, ano sabi ng Lord? Sabi ng ganon, yet you do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask amiss that you may spend it in your own pleasure. Ano bang sabi dun sa verse 4? Listen to this. It's very, very intriguing. Sabi niya ganon, adulterers and adulteress. Sabi niya ganon. Tinawag, James called them adulterers and what do we mean by adulterers here and adulteress? Kasi kausap ni James, James is talking to the crowd, right? And he addressed them adulterers and adulterers. Ibig ko sabihin ito, nakikipamato sila or they are practicing the sin of adultery. No. What they are practicing here is, that they prefer more of the world rather than God. That is equivalent of adulterer. Ang sabi niya gano'n, di ba? You do not know what the friendship with the world is enmity or enemy with God. Ibig sabihin, if you prefer more of the world, you are an enemy of God. That's how simple it is. Huwag na natin ba yun, ano naman, brother, nakikisama lang naman ako, nagbibigyan ko lang naman sila, kumimik lang naman kami. No. This is what the scripture is saying. When you are the friend of the world, of course, we have to, kasi, in the Bible, there are classification of the meaning of the world, the word world. Pag sinabi natin world sa Bible, number one, may dito yung sanlibutan. Pag sinabi, when we say world, it can also refer to the people. Diba? And world, it can also refer to Satan. There are verses in the Bible that, when you see the word world in the Bible, you have to understand, what is the one being referred here? Is it Satan? Is it the world? Or is it the earth? But here, it's referring to the works of Satan. Yun yung isang makamundo, kumbaga sa Tagalog. Pagka kinaibigan mo yung mundo, then you are an enemy of God. So of course, we have to be friends with the world also, but not the system of the world. Not Satan. Parang ganun. So, sabi niya ganun, do you not know that friendship with the world is enemy with God? So, that's the reason why I entitled this, Be Friend with God. Before we friend with the world, we have to be friend with God. So that, that conflict, that we spill out to ourselves and that spill out to our neighbors, settle it with God first. Because you cannot settle your issue with your neighbor unless you settle your issue first with yourself, unless you settle it with God first. Do you get it? Hindi mo masosolve yan eh. You cannot solve your problem with your brother, or with your tita, or with your uncle, or with your relatives, until you settle it for yourself first. Pero before you settle it with yourself, you cannot settle that unless you settle it with God first. Kailangan you have to wrestle it with God first. You have to kneel down to God. Lord, settle this issue inside my heart right now. And then, only after then, you could settle your issue with your neighbor. It will spill out. Sabi niya, how can you give something that you do not have? How can you give peace? How can you give love to this person if you do not have that within yourself? And how can you have that if only God who can provide the ultimate peace and the ultimate love, right? We cannot get that from gimmicks. We cannot get that from happiness. Happiness is temporary, but the inner joy is permanent and eternal. Okay, let me go to my last point. Uy, last point na. Ano yung number one? Diniscuss natin. What did we discuss? Is the conflicts. Diba? Naintindihan natin na there is conflict.